Towyn is the home of the Towyn Railway. Originally, the railway was built in the 1860s to carry slate from a small quarry up the valley to Towyn Wharf, from where it would go to Abu Dhabi. Now it's mainly a picturesque trip for the tourists, and it's possible to leave the train at several stations. We in fact were camping near one, Rhydyronin, but had decided to come to Towyn Wharf for the complete trip.
At noon on the 26th of November 2005, the peace and tranquillity of the Vale of Llangollen was shattered by the sound of cannon fire. It marked the start of a reenactment of events 200 years earlier, when the Pont Cysylltu aqueduct was formally opened. Despite frequent showers, a procession of canal boats made its way along the 1,000-foot-long structure. It had taken 10 years to build, and its innovative cast-iron trough is supported some 125 feet above the River Dee by 18 massive stone pillars. A plaque attributes its design and construction to the engineer Thomas Telford. The aqueduct was intended to be the jewel in the crown of the Ellesmere Canal Company, and as each barge reached the end of the aqueduct, it was greeted by a fusillade from the 41st Regiment of Foot. 200 years ago, excitement was high. Never before had such a long and high aqueduct been built. Yet, although the initial hopes of investors had developed into a sense of pride in its construction, all was not quite as it seemed. There was no doubting the breathtaking height and length of the structure, but as the crowds cheered, those in the know must have feared for Pont Cysylltu and its destiny to become a monument to the short-lived boom and bust of the start of the Canal Age. War had broken out with France, and defeating Napoleon began to put a heavy strain on the economy. Competition for trade became fierce, and for many canals the promise of prosperity evaporated long before the all-conquering railways arrived some 4 decades later. Mergers and takeovers became the norm, as companies struggled to maintain their profits. The Ellesmere was no exception. It had planned to run from the Severn to the Mersey, with branches to Whitchurch and the limestone quarries at Llanymynech. But construction costs were spiralling out of control, and eventually it altered its route to join with the Chester Canal. With some relief, it abandoned work on the difficult and potentially ruinous northern section via Rowabon. At Pont Cysylltu, the canal was terminated in the Trevor Basin, and tramways were constructed to serve the local brickworks, and also to take the products of the nearby chemical factory down to the canal for shipment. Today, part of the route can be seen alongside the wharves where barges once loaded and supplies for local farmers were delivered. Like all of Britain's waterways, the canal is now given over to leisure interests. It has been rebranded the Llangollen, and holiday barges now occupy the basin area waiting for next season's customers. At the end of the day, as darkness began to fall, the celebrations were brought to a conclusion with a spectacular display of fireworks.